Baseball isn't just numbers, numbers, numbers.
This game is not being played on computers.
You don't do that with a bunch of statistical gimmicks.
You don't put a team together with a computer.
We're talking weighted runs created plus,
expected WOBA,
his sweet spot rate,
defensive runs above average,
average exit velocity,
barrel rate,
xFIP,
BABIP,
SIERA.
We are
above replacement radio.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball, kind of whatever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well today. We are 2 weeks away from the end of the regular season. You know, this time, 14 days from now, we will be breaking down the official playoff picture. And today we are going to be breaking down the hypothetical playoff picture. We estimate about 17 teams that we believe are still in contention. You know, mathematically, there are more than that, but, we're not going to be talking about the Angels today, despite the fact that, technically they can still make it.
Yes. And we kind of made it our own separate interpretations. How I kind of view it is like ranking of threat to win the World Series for me.
That's how I did it as well.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily a trend of like how they're doing right now necessarily, or where it would be pointless to just
okay. I did do a little more of that, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah, it's basically what their threat level is to win the World Series, or how we view that at this point in time. We did this last year, kind of probably around the same point in the year. And it's, just an interesting thing to look at as the postseason approaches, because for certain teams, I'd say probably, eight or nine of these, 8 or 9 teams probably have a very high chance of being in the playoffs, and then there's a few others that are kind of fighting for their respective spots. But yeah, so like within that group, who's the best? Who do we see really making the most noise? So yeah, that's
I'm looking through my list last year. Man, did I have some rough takes.
Yeah, I should look back at mine.
First of all, I had the Astros at 1. They did not win a single. The last 2 years, because in 2023 I really believed in the Rays, and then I guess last year I believed in the Astros. Neither one won a single playoff game, so I apologize to the team that I put number 1 here. You're probably not good at all.
Yeah.
sorry to break it to you.
Yeah, no, I don't know if my Google account switched at that point, or if it had switched up to that point, but I know I had the Padres very, very highly ranked.
I had them 3. I had Astros, Phillies, Padres, Dodgers, Yankees as my top 5 last year.
Yeah, I think I had I know I had the Padres ahead of the Dodgers, and I think I might have had them number 2, if I recall correctly, and they got bounced in the first round.
I forget. This time last year, the Twins were very much in it, and I had them on my list.
Oh,
They finished 82 and 80.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's how it goes.
People forget how insane that collapse was last year. It was nuts.
Yeah, it made the Tigers run possible.
Yeah, literally.
That they performed the way that they did. But yeah, so first I guess we should get into the progression of some of these races before we get into those rankings. Specifically,
another potential major downfall happening in the NL.
Yeah, specifically the National League wildcard race, as the New York Mets until today, Sunday, if you're hearing this a bit later, but until today they had been on an 8-game losing streak, and are slowly but surely kind of falling out of their playoff spot. They're still in it, and today that helped with the Giants losing and them winning via walk-off. But yeah, what have you thought about just the Mets seemingly kind of getting in their own way here?
Yeah, so I have some numbers on both, and for the Mets, I'll just start by saying it's the pitching. It's interesting because if you go by a certain date, I think it's like August 20th, like 3rd or something like that. The Mets actually lead all position players. Like they lead the league in position player F4, which is kind of funny because that includes the 19-run game that they had against the Marlins and a bunch of other offensive outbursts they had in mid to late August. But since August 30th, it's the pitching. They have a 7.13 ERA as a team, and that's heading into today. So it is definitely lower after allowing 2 runs in 10 innings. That's just the starting pitching, by the way, with a 7.13 ERA. As a team, it's a 6.35 ERA. The FIP is not nearly that bad, but it certainly isn't good. I believe the starting rotation FIP is 5.45. Yeah, it just isn't. The pitching just isn't getting it done. The offense hasn't been awful, but it definitely has not done enough to alleviate the pitching being like comfortably the worst in the league. Is there anything else that you have?
Not any specific numbers, but just speaking on the pitching, I know it was the highlight of their team in terms of what their early success was and what was leading to it. They had, they were putting up historic numbers as a rotation, but it is just kind of a reminder of how much the underlying numbers do matter because I do recall them, underperforming their underlying numbers by a good bit, but everyone was obviously hemming and hawing about the ERA, but I think we all kind of understood that that group was going to come back to Earth eventually, and that's kind of what's
Mhm.
happening. It also what also contributes is Kodai Senga being in. As you've kind of talked about and referenced, Clay Holmes has not pitched this amount of innings ever in his career, so he's kind of slowed down throughout the months. I think David Peterson probably ran into a bit of bad luck, but yeah, Sean Manaea's return has not been as fruitful as the Mets would have liked. And yeah, it seems more and more they're going to have to rely on some of those rookies, which albeit that's very exciting, but it's not a position I guess you necessarily want to have to be in.
It's definitely had some varying results because Nolan McLean has been fantastic, but also Jonah Tong has shown, just some of the general struggles that you see out of someone who, a month ago was pitching in Double A and all of a sudden has been given this role to essentially save the team. Like it's not, you can't expect everybody to perform like McLean has, and I still have faith in all three of them to be very effective arms down the stretch. I feel like the Mets' big three between McLean is something that I will be talking a lot about over the winter. But for now, it's supposed to be developmental, and right now it looks like McLean is kind of the only one that's consistently delivering. I know that Sproat did pitch very well yesterday, but he's only made I think 2 starts at this point, so it's hard to really picture what this rotation would look like in a playoff series. But I mean, like you got to get there, and they are certainly not guaranteed there by any means. They are up, I believe, a game and a half on the Giants and the Reds now,
Yeah,
as
I think
things
they're
currently stand.
yeah, I think it was a half game before today, and
Hmm. The
the
Reds did
two
lose today, so maybe they're okay. It's 2 games over the Diamondbacks, 2.5 over the Reds, 1.5 over the Giants.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, that it unfortunate position that they've put themselves in, losing, also getting swept by the Phillies in 4 games and really making all chances of the division disappear, and it's almost mathematically or it might be have the Phillies clinched yet for the division?
No, they have a magic number of 1. They
Okay.
lost today and the Mets won. They would have clinched today otherwise. They did
Yeah,
clinch a
yeah.
post they clinched a postseason spot, but not the division.
Because I was about to say
But
I saw
I mean they've all but clinched. There's 2 weeks left in the season and their magic number is 1. So
yeah.
unless the Mets go undefeated and the Phillies lose out, uh yeah, the Phillies will win the division.
But yeah, that's all done, and them losing 2 out of 3 to the Reds certainly didn't help them out in the playoff picture with the Reds being a competitor. Yeah, so it's yeah, but with that all being said, um, I can't I can't rule them out as a threat in the playoffs. I think if they keep themselves out of their own way enough, I think they can be a real threat. I think they can beat um almost anyone in the National League in the playoffs. But it's a weird position that they're in that they're barely hanging on. They're kind of they are essentially they're the wild card. The literal wild card of I think this entire playoff
Yeah,
picture.
they certainly have the talent. It's just I feel very, very wary about the pitching. I have some numbers. Since August 30th, as a team, the Mets have a 21.1% pulled air rate against. That is the third highest in the majors. Their pitching has also allowed a 28.9% line drive rate, which is the highest in the majors. So, they've been giving up a lot of the kind of contact that you don't want to allow. And a 7.13 ERA is quite a lot for a starting rotation in a 14 game stretch. But when you see some of those numbers, it definitely starts to make sense why it's so far above an already bad fifth.
Right, right. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, but yeah, I mean the on the flip side, there's an argument that they have the best lineup going right now.
Yeah,
Like
no,
just
literally.
in terms of who they have and what they've done, you have to admit it's very, very impressive. Um, I know the Mets since the start of August have the highest weighted runs created plus in baseball, which, powered largely by Juan Soto. He's really ramped up as of late, but Francisco Lindor kind of had a slump and has revived himself. I know Brandon Nimmo has been a consistent bat or a more consistent bat than he was last year. And Pete Alonso's done very well, obviously. But so yeah, I mean, like they could end up being a very one-dimensional team, but if you score more than your opponent, you win. So, whether that's a 1-0 game or a 9-8 game, that could be the case. But yeah, I'll be very interested to see in, what their fate entails, given how this roster lines up because they do kind of seem one-dimensional right now.
I kind of love that Juan Soto has like backdoored his way into having the exact kind of season that the Mets would have asked of him. He ranks eighth among all position players in F4 right now. Like he's just he's got an well above 900 OPS. He's got 40 home runs. Obviously, the defense, which already was a liability to begin with, has gotten even worse. But you look at this offensive line, and that's exactly what you would have accepted from Juan Soto if you're a Mets fan this year. I kind of love that he, despite everything, has gotten there this year.
Yeah, right. I mean, despite some pretty bad luck too. I mean, 270
Yeah,
BABIP.
270 BABIP. Yeah.
Um, as someone who hits the ball as hard as he does, and yeah, he has
Also, random 30 stolen base season too.
that's the craziest thing,
Yeah.
honestly. I mean,
Yeah.
40-40 is not out of question for him, which is an
Eh,
insane
eight stolen
proposition.
bases in 2 weeks is I think is a lot to ask.
If he has a Josh Naylor run, he can do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. If Juan Soto could run the bases like Josh Naylor, we could be looking at something historic.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, his career weighted runs created plus is 158, and his weighted runs created plus this year, at least heading into today, is 158. So he is perfectly in line with what he had been doing his whole career up to this point. Despite him, not being protected by Aaron Judge. Wow. Maybe people were overreacting in
Yeah.
May when it was
Maybe it
43 degrees out. Wait, what was that? Sorry.
maybe it had only been a month and a half.
Yeah, right. Yeah, crazy concept.
Novel concept for sure.
Yeah, exactly. The shout outs to the jealous ex-girlfriends out in the Bronx. I know they can't stand it. Even if
Um,
they win the World Series, they're gonna be like, man, Juan Soto must be so jealous right now. Uh,
if we were going to move on, I do have some numbers on the Giants because I feel like we should, shine a light on the fact that they have brought themselves back into this. They
mhm.
are 14-5 since August 23rd. And in that span, they lead the majors with a 134 weighted runs created plus. 83% of the team's plate appearances since August 23rd have gone to hitters with a 100 weighted runs created plus or higher. 83% of the time, they've been at least average. And not only that, but 50%, 57% of their plate appearances have gone to hitters with a 130 weighted runs created plus or higher, which is awesome. I mean, that's, more than half the time you've been a 30% or higher above league average offense. I know that sounds very complicated, but basically what it means is that they got a lot of guys that are hitting extraordinarily well. As a team, they've gone from pulling the ball in the air, or excuse me, just pulling the ball in general 38.5% of the time to 42.2% of the time, going from 19th in the league to fourth. Their line drive rate has gone from 22.9% to 26.1%. That's 26 to fourth. They've gone from one of the worst line drive teams to one of the best. And additionally, they've gone from pulling 27.2% of fly balls to 31%. That is 16th to 6th. There have been a lot of guys on the team that get regular playing time that have been pulling a lot more of their fly balls. Most notably, Patrick Bailey, who obviously hit a walk-off grand slam. on Friday, but also has just hitting very well on top of his already incredible defense. He's gone from pulling his fly balls 25.4% of the time to 54.5% of the time since August 23rd. Heliot Ramos has gone from 14.6% to 37.5%. Rafael Devers has gone from 23.3% to 37.5%. Wilmer Flores, 30.3 to 36.4, and Willy Adames, 26 to 33.3.
Yeah, and I'm sure that has helped. Um, yeah, that is helps them hit more home runs. Willie Adames 2 home runs away from breaking that 30 homer curse, by the way.
Oh my goodness, you're right.
Yes,
Oh, that's so exciting.
very
That's now
exciting.
that's something to watch for in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Because he
I
kind of
think more
came out
than
of nowhere,
anything.
a rough few months to start the season there.
Yeah, it's kind of that thing we talked about with Juan Soto, where like if you just looked at Willie Adames's numbers right now and showed it to a Giants fan, they'd probably be like, "Oh yeah, this is a pretty good season." I mean, I guess his stolen base production is not as good as it was last year, and his defense hasn't necessarily been elite as it was maybe in his prime Brewers years, at least defensively. But putting up a 114 OPS plus as a shortstop, an everyday shortstop who's played 146 games. That looks like, for this year, a very good signing for them. And then, yeah, Matt Chapman's put up another very, very good year.
He's had a
Um,
great couple of weeks as well.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, Bailey had a really rough start, and I think is kind of getting back to where he needs to be productive. And I think is still on Fangraphs like a 3-win player this year. So it seems like whoever was underperforming, at the beginning of the year, and even like someone like Rafael Devers, who's probably underperforming, in like July, August area, they've kind of uh, they've kind of come back to where they were expected to be, and that's resulted in them, you know, remaining in the playoff race.
On August 22nd, the day that I mentioned earlier, according to Fangraphs, the Giants had a 0.4% chance of making the playoffs. They've gotten as far as 16.9%, and it's gone down a bit since, and it'll probably continue to go down with today's loss combined with a Mets win. But currently it's at 9.7%. But yeah, they've gained, gotten up from 0.4 to 16. So there's a pulse. And obviously they're only, what, 2.5 games out at this point? Or is it 1.5? We've gone through this. It's 1.5.
1.5.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So there is life in San Francisco. I know that obviously the playoff odds were much higher in June when they were like comfortably in a playoff spot before they started falling off. But regardless, they are making an attempt to come back from the dead here. As for the Mets, right now their playoff odds dropped as low as 70.4%, which is definitely not terrible, but it was 96.6% earlier this month on September 5th, which is a week and a half ago, not even. Just
Yeah.
to explain how much of free fall they've been in for the last week.
Yeah. Shout out to the Mets. They saw we put up an episode that talked about maybe frustration of September potentially being a boring month with no excitement, no exciting playoff races, and they just decided to lose 8 in a row and make things a little bit more interesting. So shout out to them for doing that.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah. Because yeah, they were 4 up, I think, heading into the month. And yeah, if the results were the opposite today, the Giants would be in that playoff spot. Um, but yeah, so do you think that shall segue us into
Yeah.
where we think all the playoff teams are?
The playoff potential teams,
Yes,
we'll say.
yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
We kind of set our own little goalposts. We included everyone in the current playoff picture plus Rangers, Giants, Diamondbacks, Reds, and Guardians. As the Guardians are within, I think, 4. So
Mhm.
it seemed fair to keep them in. And yeah, or
The
Reds and
Guardians are
Diamondbacks are
within the Guardians are within 2.5.
2.5. Okay, so
They
even
have won
better.
4 in a row in 9 of their last 10.
The Royals were a little too far out for us. They were probably the next team we were gonna include.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, so yeah, we have 17 teams. And I think we were gonna kind of talk about them in sections. So, do you want to talk about the first or the last five teams on your list?
Yes, the last five, that's what, 17. I assume we both had 17 teams on this list.
Yes.
All right, so at 17, I have the Diamondbacks. There's not much explaining to do there. I feel like, they are in it, and if they, hey, I mean, they're only 2 games out. They can more than definitely make it, but I think they are the worst team here. After that is the Reds. After that is the Guardians, the Rangers, and then at 13, I did something a little crazy here. I went with the Astros as my number 13 team on my power rankings
Mm.
here. Yeah, I don't feel too confident in this team right now. The starting rotation obviously is the big one for me. Maybe that won't have a dramatic effect in a potential wild card series where you can get away with just throwing Forever Valdez and Hunter Brown in there for 2 games and hopefully taking both of them. But after that, what's the plan? Because Javier is in there, sure, but Luis Garcia was put back on the IL. Arrighetti was put back on the IL. It looks like it's someone like Jason Alexander that would have to go for them in a game 4. Which is definitely not ideal. And even on top of that, Framber Valdez did not pitch particularly well today and has struggled for about a month and a half now. And even, going into previous postseasons since 2013, 2023, he's made 4 postseason starts, has an 8.27 ERA, a 5.62 FIP. We've been talking for a while about how the playoff rotation for the Astros is very thin, but at least you have 2 certified, ace potential pitchers at the top of that rotation. Framber Valdez is making me, quite frankly, a little less confident in that idea. And Hunter Brown, I think, is great. I think he will be solid, but the lineup can only carry you so far. The bullpen, I feel very iffy about. I think the back end is solid with the Brian Kings, the Brian Abreu's, the Stephen Okerts, and like the is Bennett Sousa on the IL? Yeah, he is. Elbow inflammation. That's not great. So even that, yeah, like the back end's decent, but if a pitcher can't go more than 5 innings and you need to build a bridge to that back end, I don't feel very confident in it. The lineup is weaker than it's been in previous years. They still have your Jordans, your Altuves, your Peñas. You got Correa back, but beyond that, like there's I think very little that I feel particularly confident in. And I just don't really know how to feel about this team going up against anyone of even like similar caliber. I know that it's the Astros and they have the postseason pedigree, but I feel a lot safer making this prediction after they lost in a 2-game series at home to the Tigers last year. They are very beatable, and they are not. Simply put, I don't think they're the intimidators that they were previously, simply based off of last year. And for that reason, and many others, I'm putting them number 13 ahead of only the Rangers, Guardians, Reds, and Diamondbacks.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely very interesting. So yeah, my number 17 team is the Guardians. I
Oh,
know they
okay.
have a better record than a good amount of the
Mm-hmm.
people in here, but
That lineup can look rough on any given day.
their team OPS plus is 83.
Yeah,
So
no, that's totally fair.
I hate that. And also, I mean, I don't use this for, past evaluation, but I think for future performance, it can be useful. They have a 71 and 78 Pythagorean win-loss, which I don't love. And then also their best reliever, who's really helped them in seasons where they have been successful. Well, maybe not their best reliever, but a top reliever has been suspended for a while, unfortunately for them.
Yeah,
And then my number 16 is the Reds, because I'm also discouraged by their lineup. They have great pitching numbers, but not great pitchers. Like, for example, like Andrew Abbott's got a sub 3 ERA, but I don't know if I can trust him, like, moving forward to be that guy necessarily. Same with someone like Nick Lodolo or um, even Hunter Green or someone like that. Maybe less Hunter Green than the other two. But yeah, they have a 90 team OPS plus, which I don't love. My number 15 is the Diamondbacks. They even though I have them ahead of 2 teams, I'm not very encouraged by them. It's kind of hard to be dangerous when you not only sold at the deadline, but sold, most of your key pieces, or most of the key pieces that were available. I still think they have a solid lineup, but yeah, I think their pitching issues do run deep. But lineup wise, like yes, they did let go of Suarez and Naylor, but Perdomo has been one of the best players in baseball over the last uh, couple months. Corbin Carroll has had an unbelievable season. Ketel Marte has continued being an excellent hitter and the best second baseman in baseball. So I do still like the lineup, but yeah, the pitching issues are a bit much. And then the Giants are my number 14. Um, I like that a good portion of that team is turning the corner, like I mentioned, with guys like Willie Adames, Rafael Devers, and also Justin Verlander sneakily has his ERA and FIP under 4. That's really
Mhm.
cool for them, along with the consistent performance this year of Logan Webb and Robbie Ray. I think they have a decent lineup in rotation, but a questionable bullpen post deadline after trading Tyler Rogers and Camilo Doval. And then my number 13 team is the Rangers. They have a better Pythagorean win-loss than the Mariners and Astros. However, I still see some issues. Obviously, Seager's out right now. If and when he does return, I think that could help them a lot. But they have lost Nathan Eovaldi for what seemingly is the entire year, and he was their best pitcher for them, at least on an inning by inning basis, and they no longer have him. DeGrom and Kelly are solid, but outside of them, it's kind of questionable. Um, but if they do kind of go on a run and make it in, I think they could be dangerous, which is why I have them as the best team not in the playoff picture. And I easily could have put them, in the top 12, which would put them, with more in the mix with those playoff teams. But there were other factors that made me think that the teams currently in the playoff picture do all belong in the top 12. So yeah, what do we want our next section to be?
Let's do like 12 through 10.
Sounds good. Yeah.
These are like they maybe get in, but it's fringy. Actually, one of these teams I don't have getting in.
Hmm.
But at number 12, I have the Giants. I know you put them little bit lower than that. I feel like we're generally on the same page. I know that they've been streaking lately. They had that big run. I am kind of discouraged by how those last couple Dodgers games went. It feels like you kind of had them, with you could have taken one of those two. Instead, they got blown out in both. They gave up 12 runs on Saturday night, 8 runs, I believe it was today. And they go to LA for 4 next week. They have Arizona, which will probably be at least a competitive series coming up. On top of that, like I just don't love this rotation when it's not Webb, and even he's got hit lately. Verlander and I guess Robbie Ray, but like outside of that, it seems very thin. The bullpen, has been good, but again, like the depth just is kind of something that concerns me. The lineup, obviously, it's great right now. Is it hitting its peak? I obviously don't think it's say 134 OPS or OPS plus lineup like it has been, but um, I think it will cool down in the next couple of weeks. At number 11, I have the Mets. I know that you're probably going to have them a lot higher. The talent is definitely there, but the pitching does really scare me because outside, like, I genuinely don't know who I feel sincerely confident in. Like, I know Peterson's FIP has been low, the ERA has still been high. That means there's, potential for him to get hit. McLean obviously has been fantastic, but can you expect a rookie pitcher that just debuted to go out there in the postseason and shove? Maybe you can, maybe you totally could, but it's just not something that I feel super secure with. I don't know, like maybe they are the type of team that could just sneak in and then make a massive run, but I don't know. I have my worries, and for that reason, I put them just outside the top 10. And then at number 10, I have the home 9. I put the Red Sox at number 10. I really didn't think that the Roman Anthony injury was going to have that dramatic of a impact, but it has. Obviously, tonight was, they did win, but they also didn't score a run after the first inning, which I didn't love. Yeah, I don't know. I feel a bit concerned about this team. When they're going, they are very complete. They have like maybe a top 3 or 4 bullpen among all these teams, which is crazy because I think the bullpen even still has some concerns outside of Whitlock and Chapman, but there's just not a lot of good bullpens in this playoff picture, to be honest, which is really funny. But like the rotation is very good. With Crochet, with Bayo, Giolito, if he can continue to be that guy, they're still, I think, kind of auditioning for starters. The lineup is what it is. You know, it's very good, but it's very streaky with runners in scoring position. Um, yeah, I'm putting the Red Sox at 10. So I have Giants 12, Mets 11, Red Sox 10.
Yeah, yeah. This is probably going to be my most controversial take. But at 12, I have the Detroit Tigers. And I'm talking about, threat to win the World Series. And just, when I see the Tigers, and I spoke highly of the Tigers heading into the year. I had them win the division, and looks like that's what they will do. But I've kind of been discouraged by
The fact that Jack Flaherty hasn't been the Cy Young.
yeah, by the fact that Jack Flaherty's not been Cy Young, but also, not a great deadline from them, and
Well,
just
Finnegan's been good. He's just injured now.
they they don't look like a huge threat to win the World Series. They're 26 and 31 in their last 57 games. A lot of the overperformers that made them very successful initially, I think they've come back to earth, specifically guys like Gleyber Torres and Javier Baez. Where, there were a ton of guys in June where it's like, wow, they're really outperforming expectations this year, and they've kind of, gone back to where they were originally supposed to be. And I think they will probably continue that performance heading into the postseason. And I just, in terms of roster makeup, I think, just like last year, the rotation behind Tarek Skubal is still in a pretty rough spot. And I haven't looked at the numbers necessarily, but I don't know if the bullpen is as strong as it was last year. Um,
Mhm.
they just and yeah, maybe this is a silly narrative to have, but like it feels like they haven't played a lot of meaningful games lately, which, has maybe reduced their quality of play a little bit. But yeah, just, lineup wise, um don't love them. Rotation wise behind Scooble, not a big fan. And, just hypothetically, if the season ended today, they'd be the 2 seed and they'd face one of the Mariners or Astros. And I think I like both those teams over the Tigers right now. So I don't really I I don't really see them as a huge threat, but I'd love to be proved wrong by Detroit because yeah, they were really fun last year, and they're just a fun team to watch when they are rolling. They just haven't been rolling over the past couple months. So that's my number 12. I'll keep it hot by saying the Blue Jays are my number 11. Even with them
Wow.
having the best record in the American League, um, they're pretty solid all around. Um, but, nothing that jumps off the page for me necessarily. It does, what does contribute is they've kind of gotten lucky on the Pythagorean win-loss front. The run differential is not as strong as the Yankees or Red Sox, and it's not to put down what they've done, but in terms of future performance, that is something I tend to look at. And I'm not really sure how their pitching staff will translate in the playoffs because, it's more of a, consistent all the way through, like pretty good guys, but there's not a lot of stoppers necessarily. You don't really have a shutdown ace in that rotation that you would expect to have from a team who, might be a 1 seed in the playoffs. And I think, if talking about playoff rosters, if two teams are of the same quality but one's more top heavy than the other, I think the top heavy team does a little bit better because you can rely on your best guys a little bit more in the playoffs, especially on the pitching front. Whether that be starters or bullpen. And then my number 10 team is the Mets, one spot off from you. I think they arguably have the best lineup in baseball. And I think much of their recent pitching failures could be attributed to, a little bit of bad luck. Not all bad luck, but it certainly has been a contributor. And I think if they hold on to that playoff spot, they can be dangerous. But yeah, there's still a lot of teams I would put ahead of the Mets, even though I speak highly of their lineup and how dangerous they can be. I do recognize, their pitching situation is not great, and the potential of having a couple of rookies in your playoff rotation is not ideal. But I still think they're a pretty dangerous threat. Are we doing 9 through 7 next?
We can do nine. Yeah, let's do 9 through 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So at number 9, this is where I put the Detroit Tigers. So I'm not too far off from you on this one. Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of the sentiment. I'm, just automatically cautious with any team coming out of the Central. Um, because we've been burned plenty of times before. The team that the Tigers have been playing kind of 500 ball for a while now. Tarek Skubal has been a little bit more iffy than he was previously, which is certainly a high bar. I mean, it's not like he's been bad. He's just been not quite a clear Cy Young front runner for his last few starts, if you will. I know that's a very maybe a little unfair and certainly not any indication that he can't continue that he can't go back to what he was going forward. But I mean, if they don't have school, then I don't really know what they have because in the rotation, you certainly have probably the best game one starter that anyone will have in the playoffs. But after that, it's Flaherty, who could be very shaky. He's definitely been better as of late, but the home runs are still a problem. Charlie Morton, and then what, like Casey Mize, Cater Montero, like who is that for going to be? The lineup is very, I think the lineup is like the most of any lineup in this field here because it's a lot of pretty good. I'm looking for someone to be great, and maybe that's Kerry Carpenter, maybe that's Spencer Torkelson, maybe that's Riley Green. I am seeking. I don't know who like the clear guy is in this lineup that you're scared to pitch to in the playoffs. They don't have a Judge, they don't have an Otani, they don't have one of those just insanely good bats that you're fearful of. They just have a bunch of really goods, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I feel like I really need to see someone step up and be great. And I can certainly leave an open mind to being proven wrong here, but for right now, I'm putting them at number 9. The bullpen also is not nearly what it was at this time last year. Last year their bullpen is what fueled their sprint into a playoffs. This year it's been a lot more shaky. But that's the Tigers. At number 8, I put the Chicago Cubs. This lineup is maybe one of the best in the playoff field. I am definitely very concerned about the Pete Armstrong struggles, and I don't really know if he's going to break out of them. His process is the same. He just simply isn't hitting the ball as hard as he once was, and that's literally the driving force behind why he has struggled so much. His chase rate is the same. His strikeout rate is the same. His pull rate is the same. His fly ball rate is the same. All the things that he was doing well, he is still doing except for barreling the ball. That is virtually the only thing. But other than that, there's still a very good lineup 1 through 9 here, or maybe even 1 through 8. But, I still fully expect this team to mash in the playoffs. The pitching is where I get a little more concerned, especially with Daniel Palencia going down with an injury. I don't really know what the timeline is on that, but I'm not particularly optimistic. Starting rotation is a bit weird. Like Matthew Boyd's probably the game 1 guy, and I'm not saying that's cause for concern. He's been excellent. It's just definitely not the road I expected this team to take to get there. Imanaga, Cade Horton will probably back up. I know a lot of people have been freaked out about Cade Horton, and he probably will win NL Rookie of the Year, to be honest. I am a bit hesitant to, go all in on him right now, just because the FIP numbers and the strikeout numbers are not where I would like them to be. But again, probably still going to win NL Rookie of the Year in a kind of underwhelming field. But his ERA has been great, so I'm happy for him. But the pitching does leave me a bit weary from maybe the more elite teams here. And then at number 7, I have the New York Yankees. Obviously, this is a lineup that, if right, can be the best in the playoffs. It really depends on if Aaron Judge wants to hit in the playoffs, which, there's been a lot of narratives that he can't do it. He did get kind of hot in those last couple of games in 2024, but, I don't think that kind of momentum carries in year to year. Either way, if they don't, it's same thing I said with the Tigers with Skubal. If the Yankees don't have Judge, I don't really know what they have. The rotation, Fried has been good in the playoffs before. He's been a little more shaky as of late, and then after that, it's Rodon, Schlittler, and Heel game 4. Like that's not. I don't feel super confident in that lineup. The bullpen has the names, and I do think that this is a bullpen that can absolutely get right in the playoffs. I just haven't fully seen it since the deadline when they got Doval and they got Bednar and all those guys. But yeah, I have the Yankees at number 7, along with the Cubs at 8 and the Tigers at 9.
Yeah. My number 9 is the Boston Red Sox. I think they're fairly solid all around, like solid lineup, solid pitching. Solid starters, solid bullpen. Um, but yeah, their lineup could be better considering some of the injuries they've unfortunately faced. The Roman Anthony injury definitely hurts the lineup and definitely will hurt the lineup, considering that he will not be back until at least, a few games or potentially series of the playoffs if they make it that far. And I think ultimately they could feel the effect of the Devers loss in the postseason as well as, as much as people like to talk about, the addition by subtraction thing. I don't really think that's
I don't buy it.
I don't think that is a real thing. I think if Devers was still around, they'd probably be doing about the same or better. Just happened that a lot of the team kind of caught fire at the same time. And I'm sure Devers could have been a part of that as well. And you know, a positive for them is they have one of the best number one starters of this group.
Hmm.
A top five starter in baseball, in Garrett Crochet. And then yeah, outside of that, it's a little bit hit or miss, but there is the potential of hit with guys like Brian Bayo and Lucas Giolito. The issue can be, them like they tend to sometimes get themselves into some jams. Are they going to be able to get out of them? And that's sort of the hit or miss part, especially with Bayo specifically. But yeah, the Red Sox. I think they're a solid team. I think that having them in at number 9 here is perfect because I kind of have them middle of the road for this group. Number 8, I have the Astros. I think them being a top-heavy team definitely helps them early in the playoffs, as you kind of prefaced. The shorter the series, I think the better the odds are for them.
Yes.
They have the best top two in baseball on the starting rotation front, but obvious question marks after that, with whether that be like Christian Javier or Jason Alexander as your 3 and 4. Like, you don't necessarily know what you're getting. I do love the fact that they have Yordan Alvarez now, and also he's come back and he's performed like he performed prior to this season. He's hitting the ball great. Even before he got injured, his under the surface stats were really really good. He just happened to get into some really bad luck. So that the addition of him to the lineup, I think, is going to do wonders for them. And then they have a pretty good lineup to surround him as well. Not as good as it used to be, but good enough. But I think them being a top heavy roster is an advantage they have over teams like maybe the Tigers or Blue Jays, who maybe are more complete, but not necessarily don't necessarily have the star power that the Astros do. My number 7 is also the New York Yankees. I think they have a great lineup. I think they have a good bullpen. I think they have a questionable starting rotation. But I think overall they make a pretty good team and a decent threat. They also have the best run differential in the American League, so that's something to consider as well. They've, they can break out. They can have, really really good, really explosive offensive performances. It's not just Aaron Judge. Cody Bellinger's broken out this year. Uh, Jazz Chisholm has had an excellent year as well. It's not just Judge, and if he slows down, yeah, it would definitely hurt them, but they might be able to survive more than they could have in potentially past years. Not last year they had Soto, but um, y'all get what I mean. I have them number 7. Who do you have 6 through 4?
One thing that I think I should preface here, and I don't know if I'm speaking with for you on this one as well, but for me, the line on this list from 1 through like 11 is very thin.
Me
I don't know
too.
about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like last year, I went to the postseason feeling like they were maybe like 5 or 6 teams that I felt had any realistic chance. There's a lot more parity, I think, like potential for parity this year for me at least. Like I could see a pathway for most of these teams.
I totally agree.
So if you're offended that we ranked your team low, it's they're probably not that far from the top if you were to actually put points on this, if you will. For my number 6, I put maybe this is a hot take. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised to hear you have them higher. But I have the San Diego Padres at number 6. The lineup obviously has a lot of potential to be good. It's very similar to most Padres teams for me with this lineup where it's like, yeah, they got the studs, but like who's gonna hit 6 through 9 on this team? And that's kind of where we're at. And the I'd say the balance in this lineup is definitely better than it was in years past, but I still am a little cautious with guys like Merrill, who did homer today, but hasn't had the greatest year, with like O'Hearn, who has struggled for a while now. Like Gavin Sheets, is that going to happen? Ramon Laureano, is he going to pick up his hot streak? There's a lot of guys that are more if than for sure's for me in this lineup, but really the concern is the rotation. If they have to go on the road in these playoffs, which it seems likely that they will have to, you have Dylan Cease with a 5.54 ERA on the road this year. Plus, you have Michael King, who is, just coming back from an injury. Plus, you have Nick Pivetta, who, can give up a home run at any moment, but also could strike 12 guys out. Like it's very iffy and questionable. So I'm not really sure with that team, to be honest, but obviously the potential is there. I mean, I think this is unquestionably the best bullpen of these groups. Even with the injury to Jason Adam, you're still playing 5 inning games with Suarez, with Marahone, and with Estrada. Plus, like there's other guys as well. But yeah, like this is a team that, yeah, if the stars are right, they have easy World Series potential. But the rotation does freak me out a little bit, and for that reason, they are number 6. At number 5, this is where I put the Milwaukee Brewers. I know they have the best record in the league. And I really wanted to put them in the top 3, but like I mentioned with the Tigers, we've been burned by Central teams before, especially this team. And I really want to believe that this team is different, and I'm definitely open to that possibility. Um, Whether it be, Chorio, heating up a little bit as of late, Yelich having his best season since 2019, just kind of an all-around group of solid players. It's kind of just it's weird. On paper, this is not really much different from a normal Brewers team that makes the playoffs in terms of like the talent on the roster, and the balance of the lineup and the rotation of the bullpen. But this team just happens to have a better record. Like I would not have ranked most Brewers teams number 5 on these kinds of lists, I would say, in this era. But this team is definitely much better. They got the Bob Uecker spirit with them this year, which I would love to see turn into anything. That'd be very fun. But I do have the number 5 largely because, again, like not the totally star-studded teams. And also just we've been burned before. At number 4, this is maybe the biggest disagreement we have. This is where I put the Toronto Blue Jays. Going into what you said, you said that they don't have like a star-studded ace, and to that I pose you with Kevin Gausman, who over his last 9 starts has a 2.36 ERA and a sub-3 FIP. He hasn't been walking anybody. He's got a 1.33 walks per 9. Strikeouts are around a 1 per inning, and home runs are very low. Like I do think he has become that ace again. Maybe if it's not the same level that it was at like a few years ago, I think he's capable of being that guy. And there's definitely question marks about Bassett and Scherzer and Barrios and Bieber, and if they can do all those things. But I have a lot of those concerns with other teams as well. And for me, those questions are a lot less significant with the Blue Jays than they are other teams. The lineup I think is very balanced. The bullpen is very hit or miss, but man, it absolutely can hit. Like Jeff Hoffman does still strike out a lot of guys, even if he gives up a home run every other plate appearance. You just, if you get the good Hoffman, which I'm open to the idea of, I think this is a really dangerous team. And I put them number 4 on this list because I do think with that lineup and with the potential for that rotation and hoping for the best from the bullpen, because even with the bullpens, there's not a lot of good bullpens here. Like it's the Padres, the Mariners, the Red Sox, and like maybe the Yankees, like and the Phillies. Like there's not a ton that I love here in terms of bullpens. So I think that's the Blue Jays' biggest weakness, and they don't get docked too much because it's a weakness for a lot of other teams as well. And I'm putting them at 4.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. My number 6 team is the Seattle Mariners, who, although I probably have them a good amount lower than you, they are my best American League team. I just am not very faithful
Nice.
I don't have a lot of faith in the American League this year.
That's fair.
But yeah, I love what the Mariners are doing right now. I think their roster is in a fantastic position, and it's in the best position it's been in all year. Julio Rodriguez is in elite form. He's put up almost a 1,000 OPS since I think July 11, something like that. Obviously we've come to expect that with Julio Rodriguez's entire career, where he just turns it up once July hits. But even excluding Julio Rodriguez, like the lineup just has a lot more dangerous hitters than we're used to. Um, Obviously, Cal Raleigh has made a lot of waves with his season, and him still being a threat to hit 60 home runs in 2025. But Jorge Polanco has been in great form. Randy Arozarena has been a great hitter for them as well. The acquisitions of Eugenio Suarez and Josh Naylor have been excellent for them, or have the potential to be excellent on at least on Suarez's side. And he's been better as of late. I know that. But Naylor's been a significant contributor for them, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, that's not even we're not even talking about the pitching there. I think the rotation and the back end of the bullpen look great. With your 1 through 3 in no particular order is probably Wu, Gilbert, and Kirby. And they all, at least under the surface, have looked very good. Kirby had a you know Kirby struck out 14 batters today, so that
13.
uh
Sorry to be that guy, but it was 13.
it was 13.
Yeah.
I thought
Oh
I
no, it
thought
was 14. You're right. I'm sorry, I suck. I
yeah,
forgot he came out for the seventh, struck out one batter and left. I
yeah,
forgot I forgot that important detail.
he had 14, which is great. And then, although their bullpen hasn't necessarily been complete, Munoz has been great. Brash, shout out, ARR
Our
alum
guy.
Matt Brash, has been great, and Gabe Spire, especially under the surface, has been excellent. So, if you have three just absolute studs in the bullpen, I love to see that. And I'm sure you'll get into more why you love them heading into the playoffs. But that's why I think the Mariners are the best American League team. Number 5, I have the Cubs. Love their lineup. I am fairly worried about their pitching situation on both fronts, starting and bullpen. But I do love their lineup, especially considering I think that Tucker injury is a bit minor. But just kind of all around the field, they have good options. At catcher they got Carson Kelly. Even in the middle, Horner and Swanson are at least able to tread water or a little bit more. The outfield usually hits pretty well, even with PCA's recent struggles. Yeah, they have a great lineup, but their pitching situation is rough, and I would probably rank them a bit higher if they had a better trade deadline. I think, the effect of them not moving as much as they should have in the at the deadline may take effect in the playoffs, unfortunately for them. But I still have them at number 5, and then at number 4, I have the San Diego Padres. I love their pitching situation. I love,
Okay.
love, love their pitching situation. I think they got a solid top three with Nick Pivetta, Michael King, and Dylan Cease. And Cease, like, people will kind of probably hem and haw at his ERA, which I understand it's in the mid fours, but like if you just look at his Savant page and you look at rate, walk rate, you look at barrel rate, fly ball rate, it's all around the same as it was last year when he was, when he was getting Cy Young votes. And that's not to say that last year was fraudulent. It's more to say that under the surface, he's also been really good this year. He's just run into some poor luck. His BABIP this year is I think 55 points higher than it was last year. And 321 BABIP against is pretty unlucky. So I think I think Cease, just heading into the postseason, I still have full confidence that he can put in some shutdown performances. So I would love to see him as a number 2 or number 3 in that rotation. And yeah, that bullpen is so, so good. It was already the best in baseball, and they added guys like Mason Miller, um, or they added Mason Miller to that. Yeah, it is as you mentioned, like a 5 inning game there. But yeah, what keeps me from putting them up toward the top of the list is their offense. They have a 95 OPS plus as a team this year. But they guys like Machado and Tatis have game-changing potential, but that's the trouble with baseball. They can only come up once every 9 times. So, you can only do so much there. But I love their pitching situation, and that's what brought them up to number 4 for me. All right, on to the final 3 teams.
To be clear, I'm not worried about Dylan Cease pitching at home. not
Right.
even a little bit. But yeah, going into my top three, at number three, this is where I put the Seattle Mariners. I also have them as the best AL team. Um, I've said it before in this program, and I will continue to say it. I think this is arguably the most complete team in the league. And my ranking kind of fluctuates depending on where they end up in the seeding. Right now, they hold the 3 seed as they are in sole possession of first place in the AL West. And under that assumption, I think they are comfortably the 3 seed because this team at home is not to be messed with. I came, on this program again last week and said, and talked, glowingly about how well they play at home, and they immediately went on a 7-0 homestand. Granted, it was against the Angels and the Cardinals, and it wasn't, the greatest competition, but I mean, 7-0 on any homestand is impressive. And just to go further into that, this year they are 48-27 at home, a 630 like 7-ish winning percentage. Like this team, when they play at home, and they would do so in the wild card series, they would have, they would not have home field in the division series if they go on to that, but they could have in the CS, the World Series. Yeah, obviously, it depends. Same with the CS, but yeah, this team at home is not to be messed with. I've watched a lot of Mariners baseball this year, as you can imagine, and this is not generally something that I pick up on with teams, but I think I notice a lot more with the Mariners because it's just more of a part of their game. But I am very impressed by the way Dan Wilson manages his bullpens. And it helps that they have a lot of effective options. It really isn't just Bizardo and Brash and Munoz, but Caleb Ferguson has been very effective for them this year. They've gotten some key outs from like Luke Jackson recently, like Emerson Hancock as like a guy to finish off a blowout win has been important. Like they get big outs from everyone that they need them from, and obviously, but like I was watching the game on I believe it was Saturday, and Brian Wu goes 6 innings. They're up by 3 runs, so there's some sort of cushion. They end up not using Bizardo and Munoz to save them for today's game, which didn't end up mattering. But you know what? They can go out and have Luke Jackson go get 3 outs. They can have Caleb Ferguson go pitch a scoreless eighth to set the bridge for Matt Brash in the ninth. I haven't even mentioned like Gabe Spire, who's been a huge lefty piece for them out of the bullpen. Like I am very impressed with the way that Dan Wilson does this. And like I said, it helps that everyone gets the job done. But you rarely see the bullpen being a reason for a loss in these games. And even whether they're on the road, they're at home, like it's kind of the same story. And obviously the rotation is a very good 1 through 5. We're not even talking about the fact that like they're probably going to end up throwing one of their very good starters like Bryce Miller into the bullpen for the playoffs. Like that's realistically something that will probably happen because they will have Wu game one, some combination of Castillo and Gilbert and Kirby for the rest of the series. But yeah, like this team, I think is fantastic. The lineup you obviously already talked about. I won't go more into that, but yeah, I really like the Mariners. I think they're the best team in the AL. And if they play at home, like I think that they're good enough at home that like in a 5-game series, like they just need to win a road game, and it's theirs. At number 2, this is where I put the Dodgers. I know that they haven't been playing particularly well, over the last couple of months, but they still are the Dodgers. They have the talent. They have Ohtani. They have Betts, Freeman, all those guys. The rotation is back to full health at this point. Well, not full health, but Sasaki's the only one missing. But given the way that he performed earlier in the season, I don't think he's very, very needed on this roster right now, and he might be pitching out of the bullpen as it was reported today. But I mean, having Yamamoto as a clear game one, and I would argue Yamamoto is maybe the best game one starter that any National League team has. I think that's like a very reasonable take to have. And then, Snell is back, and Ohtani is who knows what he'll be doing in the playoffs on the mound. I would imagine it's probably like one time through the order type starts. And then you have I feel like I'm missing one. I'm definitely missing one. Who am I missing? Glass now. I'm missing Glass now. Like he's gonna be starting games. The bullpen is bad. I'm just not even gonna sugarcoat that. But can it still be that bad? Right? Like you'd think it has to get a little better, right? Like Tanner Scott's not gonna keep having an 11 ERA since coming back from the IL, right? Like surely he's gonna turn it around at some point. And maybe Sasaki as the closer is like exactly what they needed. Who knows? But I still think this is a really talented team. Like they're, every time the 2024 playoffs really flipped the script for me on what to expect from the Dodgers because that team really should not have won it all. They should have lost to the Padres, and they did not. They whatever you think about the Dodgers, they just seem to do the opposite. In 2022 and 23, they were supposed to go all the way and they had quick exits to inferior teams. In 2024, they were supposed to have a quick exit and they won it all. So clearly the Dodgers are due for another quick exit here, but I have them as my number two team. And then at number one, I have the Philadelphia Phillies. I think they are, like they're for one, they're due. Like they've had so many, just great October moments in the last few years. It just hasn't culminated into a championship, and I think this is the year that they're due for that. Even without Zach Wheeler, they still have a very good 1 through 4 with Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo, Ranger Suarez, and Aaron Nola. The bullpen, even without Jose Alvarado, I still think has a lot of good guys. Obviously, you have Duran closing out games. Behind him, you have Orion Kerkering. You have a bunch of guys that have been excellent in the lineup. I feel like I don't really have to explain. You know the guys, you know who they are. And yeah, this is, the bank is obviously the place to be in October. I almost kind of like that they are realistically going in as the 2 seed and they're not like the team to beat. I feel like they do better in those kinds of situations, right? They were the 1 seed last year. They fell to a wild card team. Their best 2 playoff runs with this group have been as wild card teams. So I like the position that they're in, and I think they're the best team.
Right. I hate to be they were the 2 seed last year. The
Are
Dod
they? Yeah,
Yeah,
The Dodgers were the 1 seed. You're right.
because the Mets
You're right.
were the sixth
Yep.
seed. Um,
Apologies.
Apologies, but yeah, maybe they've learned from last season. Um, my number three team is a team they could learn from past postseason experiences. That's the Milwaukee Brewers. I think you had them four. And yeah, I don't think they have the best record in baseball, as we probably all know. But yeah, I still don't think that their team's talent stacks up with the two teams ahead of them. And you could argue there's other teams in this group that are more talented than the Brewers that I have below the Brewers. Um, and yeah, like it's there's a lot of narratives about how you win in the playoffs and stuff like that. And I know like a big stat I think for the 2022 playoffs was like how often the team that out-homered the other team won. And it was a big deal. And with the Brewers, it would be something against them because I think they're 20th in Major League Baseball in home runs. However, another key factor, like something that's often referenced when we analyze these playoff games is, what you do with runners in scoring position and, how, can you create your own luck? Can you have, if you have a good BABIP and string innings together, that can also benefit you. And the Brewers are the best team in baseball at doing that, creating their own luck, especially with runners in scoring position. And they're a very athletic team and they're able to do that. Do I think that will translate to long-term playoff success? Still probably not, but it's something that they have that a lot of other teams don't. And also just in that lineup, not any crushers necessarily, but there's also not really any easy outs that we see. When you look at like their baseball reference page and their top nine, everyone pretty much has an OPS plus above 90. So everyone's somewhat of a threat. It's a sort of a um, jack of all trades, master of none type lineup. That's what the Brewers have. Same with their pitching staff. It's not any real stoppers, but it's consistent all the way through. And also them just kind of having home field advantage all the way through, um, I think should help them out. However, yeah, I don't think they're at the Phillies Dodgers tier either. And yeah, my number two team is the Philadelphia Phillies. Um, their top three I think is elite. Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, Jesus Luzardo. I know Luzardo's ERA is not elite, but his FIP is. And in terms of how I view how we'll do in the future, that's what I'm going to be looking at. like with the Brewers, there's not really any easy lineup or not really any easy outs in that lineup. I'm excited, it's a positive for them that Trey Turner would be returning. And if Zach Wheeler was on this, was on this projected roster, I would probably have them number one, but he isn't. Unfortunately, he seems to be out for the rest of the year. So that's why I don't have them in the number one spot. But even then, it would probably be debatable. And then at number one, of course, I have the Los Angeles Dodgers. Obviously they've been struggling as of late, but just, once you get in, everybody's 0-0 as the saying goes. And they might make it a little bit tougher for themselves having an extra round to play that they're not used to playing in the wild card round. But looking at that rotation, I mean, there's five solid guys that you could go with, and the top four would probably be in no particular order: Yamamoto, Snell, Otani, and Glass now. That's probably the best group of four out of everybody, in my opinion. Um, and then you have you have Mookie Betts hitting an offensive stride. He's hitting like we've been used to seeing him hit. And if he can carry that into the postseason, I think that looks great for the Dodgers because, as we mentioned, either last episode or a couple episodes ago, they had been struggling offensively, and Mookie Betts was a part of that. But he seems to have been turning the corner, which is great for that lineup because their ability to hit the ball last year is what won them that World Series. They had a bad, they were middle of the pack pitching wise, but they were elite offensively. And it seems like this year they could be elite pitching wise, and if they could just tread water offensively, they could continue winning like they did last year. And in my opinion, this team is in a better position now than it was heading into last postseason, which it makes me extra confident in this Dodgers team heading into the year, or heading into the postseason. It kind of, it's kind of gone the opposite direction as it did last year, whereas last year progressively it seemed like they lost more pieces, whereas this year they lost their pieces at the beginning of the year, and they've been slowly gaining them back, specifically Snell and Glass now, and now they have them potentially for the playoffs here, which is a real positive for them, and will help them out in all aspects there. So that's why I have the Dodgers at number one. Um, but yeah, did we want to just go 17 through one and
Sure.
review it?
So I had 17 Diamondbacks, 16 Reds, 15 Guardians, 14 Rangers, 13 Astros, 12 Giants, 11 Mets, 10 Red Sox, 9 Tigers, 8 Cubs, 7 Yankees, 6 Padres, 5 Brewers, 4 Blue Jays, 3 Mariners, 2 Dodgers, 1 Phillies, and a partridge in a pear tree.
I had 17 Guardians, 16 Reds, 15 Diamondbacks, 14 Giants, 13 Rangers, 12 Tigers, 11 Blue Jays, 10 Mets, 9 Red Sox, 8 Astros, 7 Yankees, 6 Mariners, 5 Cubs, 4 Padres, 3 Brewers, 2 Phillies, 1 Dodgers. So for the most part, we stayed fairly similar. Couple outliers here and there, um, but yeah, that is kind of how we view things. Excited to see who's officially in, but it's all about the journey to get there.
Definitely the Brewers and the Phillies.
Yes, we'll be seeing them. Um, but yeah, shall we get into players to highlight?
Let's do it.
Yeah, so we will start with the lows, so we end with the highs. But yeah, we will start with our Sunday, September 14, 2025 edition of Slightly Alarming Statistics. He's been barreling up the ball way less.
He's not missing bats. He's not getting the ball on the ground, and people are hitting it in the air more.
It's been so bad. He is getting
Slightly alarming.
Yeah, so for my slightly alarming, I'm going with a Team Chris unfortunate stretch here. Talking about Spencer Strider, who has not been pitching very well for the Atlanta Braves as of late. I feel like the Braves have to lead the league in slightly alarmings this year. I mean, it makes sense given their talent and team performances, but Spencer Strider over his last 8 starts has a 7.03 ERA and a 6.32 FIP. Among the 132 pitchers with at least 30 innings pitched in the span, he ranks fifth worst in ERA, fourth worst in FIP, and his 2.27 home runs per nine is also fifth worst. Among the 131 pitchers with at least 500 pitches thrown in this span, Strider ranks 10th worst in expected batting average with a 300, tied for fifth worst in expected slugging with a 546, and fifth worst in expected WOBA at a 392. Before the span, he was sitting with a very in character 29.6% strikeout rate, but in this span, that has dropped down to 17.1%. Among the 115 pitchers with at least 100 batted balls in the span, he ranks ninth highest in line drive rate against at 30.4% and seventh highest in pulled air rate against at 25.9%. But additionally, he's been missing a lot of spots. 9.7% of pitches have been in the waste zone, which means it's a pitch that's just a ball pretty much every time, so far outside you're not even getting a chase on it, most of the time. And that 9.7% rate is tied for the ninth highest on the aforementioned list of 131. Strider's four-seam fastball has been a problem. It's obviously his primary pitch, but right now it's 10.6% whiff rate in the span. Is tied for fourth lowest among these 67 pitchers with at least 254 seamers thrown. Its 360 batting average against also ranks fourth worst. Its fouling is ninth worst, and its 441 WOBA against is fourth worst. And if he doesn't have his fastball, he needs to turn to his slider. His slider in the span has a 328 average against, which is 11th worst among the 103 pitchers with at least 100 sliders thrown. It's 701 slugging against is third worst. It's 453 WOBA against is second worst. So he doesn't have either of his two most used pitches. And for that reason, it's just, he's been getting lit up. A lot of home runs, especially a lot of hard contact. And for that reason, Spencer Strider is getting a slightly alarming.
Yes, Spencer Strider.
Slightly alarming.
Yeah, the strikeouts is the crazy one. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Because even at Spencer Strider's worst, prior to this year, he's still you could still count him for 7, 8, 9 strikeouts a game. But in this span, that has not been the case, as you mentioned. Strikeout percentage in the 17s, percentage wise. But yeah, we've really been beaten up on the Braves here, and they could probably use a break. But I will be talking about Michael Harris the second, and this is hard to do because
he could have been a how about that at one point.
And also, with us going once a week, it's hard for us to highlight players multiple. It's much harder to highlight players multiple times. But we're putting Michael Harris the second in the throw zone, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought he had another one.
Yeah, entirely separate span, obviously, and yeah, he has been a roller coaster ride this season for sure, and it's continued in, unfortunately, the wrong direction the past 23 games. Is in his last 23 games, including today, he is hitting 128 with a 318 OPS. And out of 178 qualified hitters in the span heading into Sunday, he had the lowest average on base percentage, slugging, and OPS. Out of 137 hitters to see 300 plus pitches in the span, he has the second lowest expected slugging and lowest expected WOBA. His strikeout rate has gone from 19% before the span to 26% in the span, including today, and his whiff rate had gone from 23% to 33%. He went from hitting 12% of his batted balls at 40 plus degrees of launch angle to hitting 25% of them at 40 plus degrees. The 40-degree marker, it's rarely ever ends up being a successful result for hitters when you're hitting at that angle. Those usually end in fly balls or pop-ups. And yeah, Michael Harris has been struggling because of that. He's over doubled his rate of those types of batted balls. Also, his walk rate, he's not known for getting on base via the walk ever, but his walk rate in this span particularly is 1.1%, including, in this span, including today. Out of 178 hitters heading into Sunday, his walk rate ranked second lowest. His chase rate was 45% in this span heading into Sunday, and out of 129 hitters to see 150 plus pitches out of the zone in this span heading into Sunday, Harris had the highest chase rate. And then if you want to go pitch pitch specific, he's particularly struggled against changeups, going 0 for 12 with 8 strikeouts and a 62% whiff rate against changeups. So yeah, Michael Harris has been fairly streaky and unfortunately is on the wrong end of it. Right now, he's been the worst hitter in baseball for a 3+ week span, unfortunately, and he is getting a
Slightly alarming.
So yeah, we were both hitting on Braves, unfortunately, slightly alarming. But at least we didn't overlap on player this time.
Yeah.
That just happened plenty in the year 2025. So now we will go from the lows to the highs, where we were talking players or subjects that have been outperforming expectations with our Sunday, September 14, 2025 edition of How About That?
He's striking out less, walking more, and he's also making better contact.
Turning into a strikeout machine just out of nowhere.
He's been excellent all around this year.
And he is getting a
How about that?
Yeah, so for my how about that, I am doing my civic duty of crossing a team off the list as we approach the end of the regular season. There's just 2 teams left, and I'm crossing that off to 1. Talking about Harrison Bader, Philadelphia Phillies, who has had a really interesting few weeks here. Since August 20th, he is slashing 440, 484, 679 for an 1162 OPS, a 223 weighted runs created plus, and 1.6 FWAR. Among the 178 qualifiers, he ranks tied for second in average, third in OBP, second in slugging, second in OPS, first in weighted runs created plus, and second in FWAR. Now, Chris, I know what you're thinking. You probably saw Harrison Bader's hot streak and we're like, well, that's quite a high BABIP. In case you're wondering, it's a 654 BABIP in this span. And you're probably like, oh, well, you're just doing that because it's a Philly and you don't normally do that you don't normally highlight guys with high BABIPs like that. No, I'm doing this because he actually deserves it. And also, yes, he is a Philly and that definitely helps. But yeah, his 654 BABIP over the span is the highest in the majors by 154 points. But you know what, Chris? You don't get a 654 BABIP by not hitting well. Like you have to be doing something right. There's just no way. And that's exactly what's happening here. His 36.4% line drive rate ranks 4th among the 162 qualifiers. His pop-up rate has also gone from 8.9% before the span to 3.6% in this span. So there's a couple key explanations right there as for why the BABIP is so high. His pop-up rate, I mentioned that. His pull rate on line drives and fly balls has gone from 46.5% before the span to 55.2% in the span. It's up 9%, tied for the 9th highest of the 159 qualifiers with at least 25 fly balls and line drives. He has also barreled 6 out of the 9 fly balls that he's hit in the span. Obviously, that is a 66.7% barrel rate on fly balls, which is tied for 4th among the 352 hitters with at least 5 fly balls hit. Before the span, this is what I found most interesting here. Before the span, only 46.2% of pitches thrown to Bader were in the strike zone. That is very low. In fact, it was the 5th lowest among the 205 hitters with at least 1,250 pitches seen. In this span, it is up to 52.7%. He is seeing about 6.5%, 6.5% more pitches in the strike zone. And in that time, his in-zone swing rate has gone from 62.9% to 69.5%. So he's being more aggressive at the pitches that he should be more aggressive on. He's gone from having 63.2% of his swings coming against pitches in the strike zone, which previously was the 12th lowest among 245 hitters with at least 500 pitches seen in the zone, to 70.3%. So the swing decisions are also much better. And what I kind of feel happened there was in that span, he, went from the Twins to the Phillies. He became a much more appeasing bat to pitch to with guys like Schwarber and guys like Harper, guys like Turner in the lineup with him. So for that reason, he started seeing better pitches to hit. He started swinging at more effective pitches to do damage on, and that's exactly what he's done. So Harrison Bader has had a really good few weeks, and he's moved to the leadoff spot in the Phillies lineup now, and he's getting a how about that?
Yes, Harrison Bader. He's getting a
How about that?
Yeah, very good to highlight a Philly. It'll be very exciting both of us will be highlighting Diamondbacks next week, most likely, unless
Yeah.
we really want to play a game of Russian roulette.
I was gonna say we could play a game of chicken.
Yeah, because you know, if we're going by ARR law, we have to highlight players from playoff teams for the final.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, then why would you put a how about that for? Because it's like I think part of the point of how about that is like, hey, look for this guy to continue doing well going forward because he's been doing these things recently. There's no point of doing that when it's like, hey, check out this pirate next week, 2 weeks from now.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, we can't be doing that. Um, but uh, but yeah, so it'll be a fun dynamic because we haven't run into this situation. Usually we cross all 30 teams by around this time or maybe even a week
Hmm.
prior. But yeah, it's our second time doing only one episode a week throughout the whole season, so it does make things a little bit more difficult in terms of crossing every team off the list.
It does,
But we
unfortunately.
usually do a pretty good job. Keeps us accountable, keeps us on our toes. But my how about that? It's not a Diamondback, as I'm sure was prefaced there. Talking about the hometown team here and going reliever diving. And
Hmm.
this does not include numbers from tonight, but he did have an appearance, a scoreless appearance, which helps my case a little bit today. But talking about Garrett Whitlock of the Boston Red Sox. Um, Heading into today in his previous 26 appearances, he had a 0.36 ERA and 1.52 FIP in 24 and two-thirds innings pitched. Out of 178 qualified relievers in the span heading into Sunday, Whitlock's ERA ranked first and FIP ranked fourth. Much of his improvement has just revolved around him walking less batters. His walk rate has gone from 10.2% to 4.1%. And he's done that through making guys chase more. His chase rate has gone from 30% before the span to 42% in this span. Also, he has prevented the home run ball quite well. His fly ball rate has gone from 28% to 18%, and his barrel rate has gone from 12.5% to 1.6%. And he has also not allowed a pulled fly ball in this span. And because of all this, he has not allowed a home run in this span. So yeah, Garrett Whitlock has been great in terms of preventing walks, continuing his very good strikeout rate, and not allowing a single home run, which has resulted in him having the best ERA among qualified relievers since July 5th, and resulting in him getting a high, how about that? Good sign for the Red Sox as they determine kind of their high leverage relievers outside of Chapman as they head into the postseason. Because yeah, they're kind of sort of figuring that out right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that shall do it for players to highlight. Any final words?
I don't think I have any final words this week.
Yeah, yeah,
Shout out to Cal Raleigh for tying Mickey Mantle's home runs by a switch hitter in a season record. I'm looking forward to him breaking that hopefully in the next week.
yeah, I'm extremely can't be soon enough for him to break that record. No crazy personal investment, just big Cal Raleigh guy.
Yeah.
Um but uh
Yeah.
but
You're rooting,
yes,
no, you're rooting for the big one. You're rooting for the big 63.
yeah, I'm hoping he gets to 74 to be honest.
Yeah, it just would be really cool to see.
Yeah, that would be great personally. But yeah, I think that shall do it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. Feel free to check out the guest interviews. Check out our interview with Matt Brash. You can see, what he was going through before he had his amazing 2025 season. He's recovered from Tommy John this past year and is putting up an excellent year. Feel free to talk about it. Feel free to listen about his process. But we've also had Jeff Passan on, Chris Rose, Sarah Langs, Foolish Bailey, Mike Petriello, Mark Simon 4 times, among many others. Anthony Castrovents as well. Feel free to follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta and follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran. And feel free to follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next time where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball. Once again, see you then.